Hi everybody. Well, I recently sold my previous Highland Cow painting to a collector. It was really exciting, and I realized I don't have any more Highland Cow paintings, and she was a big draw to my tent. So, maybe he. So I'm going to paint the base of the background for another Highland Cow painting. This time I'm going to put it in a sunset. So I've already put some white right here. I'm going to put some bright yellow in and around the area. This I've drawn with a colored pencil just a little bit of a horizon line. This back here will be background. This will be a stone wall, and the Highland Cow will be peeking out over the wall. So I've already designed my composition, and if you'll look and notice, I'm using with my composition called kind of the rule of thirds. I'm loosely putting my composition on that, meaning I don't want my focal points right smack in the center of my canvas, because that doesn't make a good competition. Or composition doesn't make a good, because it doesn't make a good composition. So I'm putting the sun over here kind of 2/3 of the way up and 1/3 of the way in, and I'm going to be working from there out into the sky, and my Highland Cow will be over here looking over the wall. So we don't have anything that's a focal point that's right smack in the center. We want the eye to be led around the canvas, or we want the eye to be led around the canvas so that it doesn't just shoot out, or it doesn't kind of center on the middle and not see anything else. So, because that's boring. So what I'm doing now is laying out where some of my sunset colors are going to be. Don't need to worry too much about it this way because the cow's going to be in front of it. But we've got just a little bit of a yellow, a little bit of cadmium orange. This is a cadmium orange light, and so when I put it in here, it's a light, meaning it's a little bit translucent. It's not opaque. So a very little of it goes a long way, but will not be too much on the canvas. Now I'm going to be using white in a few minutes to put in my clouds. But first I'm going to get the blue on. Now, skies are 5,000 million different shades of blue. So what I have here is kind of a bluey purple mix, and that's really the darker part of the sky over this way. Let's tilt it that way a little bit. Down a little bit. I'm not too concerned about wasting or using up paint. Not too concerned about any of that. Now, if you have met me, or if you don't know, I am an acrylic painter first and foremost. I do other mediums like pastels, etc. But I love to do a very loose and energetic pour painting in my background sometimes, and then I'm going to paint detail work on top of that once it dries. So that's what I'm doing here. Let's put that sun back up where it belongs. I'm just using my finger. Won't hurt a thing. Now I've got that lighter blue there, and I don't have any problem at all with using a bit of a darker blue with a little bit of metallic in it. Now all of my paints are currently mixed with Liquitex pouring medium and water and Floetrol. I'm probably weaning off and away from Floetrol, though I find that sometimes it gives me a better effect or result, but water actually works pretty well too. So I'm using more and more water and less Floetrol. Plus water stinks a lot less than Floetrol does. Whoop, looks like I've got a boogie. No worries. Just dig down in there and poke it out. So I'm going to put a few darker streaks up here. But as we get over toward that sunset, the sky is going to get lighter and lighter. I don't think I have a whole lot of that, but let's go with a little bit of a light seafoam blue to be right up here near the orange, because that sunset is transforming a little bit. And then pop in a little pastel blue. And then I'm going to do something interesting. Potentially throwing a tiny little bit of magenta in there. This is a pastel blue. I'm getting enough on the canvas to where when I spread it, usually with my finger, because I can control that better even than a palette knife, there will be room enough to spread it around and blow it around, because I'm going to use my hair dryer to blow in some fluffy clouds. And again, I use so little paint. By the time I'm done with this, I'm not terribly worried about wasting paint or paint drippings going down in here, because I can always peel them up and use them for something else when they've dried. All right, we've already got a little bit of a decent looking flow up there. Sorry, I was just pressing the button on my computer so it'll come back awake again, because I'm looking at a reference photo I took with similar horizon lines. The reference photo is not important of itself. I just wanted to get a similar sort of horizon line in there. Now, so this is my sky, and then I want some fluffy clouds up in here, maybe up in there a little bit. Definitely want pretty heavy duty clouds over here, kind of behind the cow's head. And I'm just doing little baby streaks of color, little dots, because those will turn into more of those kind of fluffy cumulus clouds that I like. Is it cumulus? I think it's cumulus. I don't know. I'm not a studier of clouds. I've even lost the words. Okay, so I have a degree, master's degree in English, and I still lose my words. It's part of the ADHD diagnosis, but it's also just part of the fact that I just forget what I'm saying. I lose my words. I think we all have been there. Okay, so what I'm going to do before I think about land, I'm going to do this in a couple parts. This, I'm going to do the sky first and let it set for a while, and then I'll come back and do the land a little bit. Now I just have a hair dryer. I'll probably turn you down while I do this so you don't have to listen to my hair dryer, but I'm just going to blow this paint around until it looks like a very interesting and lovely sky. Now there's only one paint in this batch that has silicone in it. You can probably already tell it's that blue that I poured out of here, and a little bit There is no silicone in this metallic blue, but metallic paint and pearlescent paints do this little lacing stuff that I'm already seeing pop up. I might try to pull you in closer so you can see it too. But they tend toward that lacing. So I'm okay with that as long as I get my end result. So let's get there. Okay, I'm not really thrilled with a couple of these in here, but I'm going to use a smaller blower or even a straw. Probably the blower since I don't have my hair tie in here and I don't want to dip my hair in the paint. So I'm going to use this little mini blower just to fluff that out a little bit more and maybe drop a little more cloudiness in. One thing I have discovered is that pretty soon I'm going to be trying to do another underwater swimming painting. I did one a while back of just the legs of a child swimming underwater. And I've just realized that this metallic blue makes the perfect little sunlight striations as if it's on the bottom of a pool in the water. So we're gonna be doing that. All right, so I'm gonna get back up into my landline. Luckily, that little bit of colored pencil, I can still see when I push that back up out of the land. It's not a huge deal, but it's a little bit of a deal. So let's go. Okay, I think that's pretty awesome, to be honest. And I'm going to leave it there. So, until stage 2. There we are. That's really cool. I'm going to pause you and then bring you down and show you up close how this sky looks right now. I hope it dries this way. I hope. All right, let's look at this. See all that in there? This is what I mean by when I get ready to do my underwater painting. That just makes an amazing bit. And it's just a little bit of it's just some of the sky color all mixed up, but it's that metallic blue that's really doing it the most. So we're definitely going to be using that in our next underwater painting because you really can't see the metallics in there unless you're staring at it or the sun's shining on it the right way. But I am not at all unhappy with this chaotic sky. It's going to fit in beautifully. And if there's a little swirly stuff in here that I don't care for, I can always just pull it out. I could even pull it out with my finger and just make it go the direction I want it to go. Oh, look at that. That's nice. I'm glad I did that. Okay, I've given the top time to, if not completely dry a lot. I'm checking first for, let's turn my brighter light on. I'm checking first to make sure there's no debris in that sky. I don't see anything, so that's good. But since it's not quite dry, I'm not going to be doing any tilting or blowing around of this lower stuff today. I'm going to be using cards to swipe the color on, and I will be using a little dimethicone in my paint, which is a safe form of silicone. It's just what a lot of people use. It's the coconut hair serum. It just it's you know, it's good for the hair, but also helps out with creating cell structures like this one up here that had no silicone in it, so that once I begin to paint the detail on here, I won't have to spend a lot of time with texture. I can just get the main details out of it. Like this is going to be a mostly black and gray rock wall. But if I swipe first to get those colors, then it will take a lot less time once it dries for me to actually paint in the stone structure of the wall. And then once everything is completely dry, I'm going to paint in, using pour techniques, the Highland Cow as well. And then when that's dry, this is a multi-step process here. When that's dry, then I will paint the details into the cow. But that's the last step of this painting. Will be the cow looking over the wall. So first thing I'm going to do, there's a little line of land in the distance that I want to put in here. And it's just basically kind of a light purpley color. So I'm going to probably use a teaspoon or something to spread a little tiny bit of white and purple. I'm going to be using a few little instruments these are just for fun, stir sticks. But this little ice cream paddle I'll be using to drizzle some paint just on the edge of my horizon and then drag it very gently across the horizon, because the background is quite misty, so there will be white being swiped over this dark purple just to make it lighter. Put that away. I'm not sure why I'm using that one when I do have, I thought, yes, a dioxazine purple in here. I can just move this way, and then there's a good bit of dark green as well within the purple, like on the bottom line. This is all going to be misty. And then we're going to drizzle a little bit of white with silicone. I don't have much in here, but I don't think I'm going to need much. I just like that misty blend of colors because the further in the background you go in a photo or painting, the mistier things get. A lot of people think the darker things get, but that's not necessarily so. Usually the dark stuff is in the foreground background colors. Like in a tree, if you've got a tree in the foreground, the leaves at the back of the tree might be dark colored, but the front of the tree are brighter. But in the far away background, everything is mistier. Nothing is super bright. Just looking to see where I want to fix things, and I'm making it kind of straight line that way because that's the way the fields are cut usually. It's in a straight line behind you, and this cow is in a pasture, so we're going to make sure it looks more pastured. Okay, I think that looks pretty cool. Notice I don't care if a little drop of color from some other layer gets down here because this right now is going to go right over the top. And when you're putting a composition together like this, you really want all the colors to be represented in almost every corner of the canvas sometimes. So orange might be reflected somewhere down this way in the grass or in little tiny flowers in the meadow, and the yellow and some of the blues might be be brought down here as well, because that gives you a little bit of cohesion. Same with the wall. The wall might be a little reflective of some of the color around it. Right now, putting in some black without silicone all the way here. Notice how it narrows as it gets up that way because that's how perspective works. Things get wider as you get closer. And that wall starts way back here. Just kind of disappears into the distance. We're going to get our next piece of cardboard ready. These are old Christopia Studios postcards that I made years and years ago that no longer have the right information. Now I'm going to put a little bit of white here and there because there are a lot of grays and silverish things in a wall like this. Where the light is reflecting off the stones. I'm going to do a tiny little bit of metallic black for the same reason. And metallic colors, as we have discussed, tend to fan out like what happened up here. They tend to run into the other paints, which is not a look I dislike. So I don't mind having the metallic formulations in my stuff. It's a little less black than the black is too, than the regular black. Now, I'm going to use black with silicone. I'm going to start at the narrow end. So I'm just going to put it on my card. Last bit here, which is in the foreground down here, is green and grass and perhaps the edge of a road down on this side. So in the past I have made enough drippings that I could leave the sides to look like the drippings of the painting. This particular painting, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to paint the edges. So I'm just going to run my finger along the edges to make sure there are no big lumps of paint that'll show through when I paint the thing. And that way I can paint the outsides black, which will make for a much more formal look when it's hanging in someone's house. All right, well, that's it for the pour on this. The pouring process is done. So you can see I've got the sky and the sunset started back here, and then that little purple line of misty mountains, and then it'll go from background pasture to closer up front, though again much of this is going to be covered because there's going to be a Highland cow with nice big horns right about here looking over the fence. Wall actually could be a little bit bigger. A little bit deeper. It's going to have a large cow peeking over behind it. All right. All right, so clean up as you go. Should be everybody's motto, even when you're cooking. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to finish this layer by torching it a little bit to make sure there's no massive bubbles or anything like that in there. And then I'm going to come back and babysit it once in a while and check and see if it needs to have anything picked out of it, or to make sure there are no egregious drippings.